But I have to trust my Father that he knows what he's doing, and I've seen the pattern of his creation everywhere. He takes things and he loves to give them this moment of resurrection, this moment of fulfillment into something more beautiful and more magnificent that's still the same thing, still somehow itself, but way more, just dialed up to beautiful and phenomenal. And so we see this all over the place, and yet we still fear and we still worry, even though we know we're in the hands of an artist who loves to tell that story.
Now we're going to dive into the complexities of creation through the perspective of his new documentary series called The Riot and the Dance. Nate, I've seen the beginnings of this series, and it is mind-blowing. I love nature series, but you're giving this nature series a whole new twist. Tell us what it's all about.
It's funny that it is a whole new twist, but it is a whole new twist. So it's one of the things that has bothered me forever is the fact that we've just conceded, as Christians, just conceded the world of nature documentary filmmaking to unbelievers. So we just let a tiny fraction of the percentage of the worldview of the world, a very, very small fraction of the world is actually atheistic, but we let that worldview curate all of nature documentary filmmaking. Right. So it just controls it completely. And yet these are all our animals. These are all our trees. These are our landscapes that God made, and we are the heirs. Like, we are the heirs. We're going to inherit all of this. Our older brother bought it with his blood, like bought it all back. This is his. And here we are just letting them film it and then narrate it. So I love nature documentaries too, but one of the things that happens in all nature documentaries is that they tell your kids and they tell you that this is all meaningless, this is all pointless, this is an accident. It's
survival of the fittest.
Yeah, just chaos. This is just chaos. This is all accidental. And it's like studying a Rembrandt or reading Shakespeare and somebody telling you that it was the result of an explosion. And like, so you look at this paint on a canvas, and instead of appreciating it and studying it for what it is, incredible engineering and artistry, you look at it and they say, this is an accident. Like, it just blew up this way. And it just demeans it. It demeans it completely, and it tries to remove the art from the artist. So I wanted to make nature documentaries that keep the artist present in the appreciation of his art. I want to celebrate creation and honor the creator while we look at his animals. So he loves his animals. He brags on his animals in Scripture. Like in Job, there's some great lines where God just appreciates his animals. And it's like, have you seen this? It's amazing. Like he just talks them up. And then Job's told to ask the beasts and they will teach you, like go to the beasts. So I want to do that. I want to go to the beasts and I want to study them and I want to learn from God by studying his art and his creation and see his humor, his joy, his love, and watch his animals in a way that points us to their maker.
I love how you bring a sense of humor into this series as well as you describe some of the animals and the way that they're shaped, their lack of aerodynamic ability, designed by the creator. Share some of that with us.
So if you look at things like a bumblebee versus a caterpillar, and you can see some of God's humor in both of those things. Things that are kind of heavy, corpulent, bulky. The bumblebee we look at and we think, how can this thing even get off the ground? It's like it's got extra recoil rubber bands inside of its thorax that enable the wings to snap back faster to try to get in just a little bit of extra so it can get off the ground at all. But forever, people couldn't figure out how a bumblebee could fly. It just physically shouldn't be able to fly. And yet we can just watch it. There it goes. And it obviously can't fly well. As it's smacking into things and careening around. But then you look at a caterpillar, and what does this tell you about God? Here's just this wriggly thing that's just getting fatter and fatter and fatter as fast as it can, and just around your backyard. And you stare at it like God's a cartoonist. He's a cartoon. This is a cartoon. And this thing's this corpulent, blobby thing, and it just eats and eats and eats until finally one day it decides to hold really still and turn into soup. And it turns into soup without any decision of its own. It can't do it. It turns into soup, and then the soup reconstitutes itself as a flying flower, as this brightly colored, really lightweight thing. So you see the humor of God there too, where he takes something really, really fat and heavy this little chubby worm that's eating your garden, and he turns it into soup, and it turns into this beautiful, lightweight flying object. But it liquefies. I mean, it turns into liquid and then reconstitutes itself as this flying flower. And if it's a monarch butterfly, it knows the way to Mexico, and it has a deep burning need to get there right now. And it could be in Nova Scotia or up by Seattle, but this caterpillar liquefies, becomes a monarch butterfly, and says, I have to get to Mexico. Like, I gotta go. The promise of the resurrection is everywhere in creation. You see it, you see his patterns all over the place. You see it in winter to spring over and over and over again. You see it in
death and resurrection.
Yep, you see it in metamorphosis. You see it in a dragonfly nymph that's swimming around by swallowing water and blasting it out of its backside. It's an underwater jet. Like, that's the only way it swims. And then it one day crawls up a blade of grass into the sun. And like, what makes it do that? Like, it's an underwater creature. What does it even know about up there? And one day it's called up and it just crawls up into the sun. The sun hardens it, it splits open, and it crawls out of itself. And now it's a dragonfly. And its wings unfold, its abdomen unrolls. It's been it became itself inside this thing. And then its wings harden in the sun, they'll never fold again, and it flies off, somehow knowing how to do that. And I know, we see that promise there. And then we see the promise for us that we're gonna go into the ground like seeds for the resurrection. And we're told that over and over and over again, that we're seeds. Like, we're seeds for the resurrection. And it's still this hard faith of like, but I'm a caterpillar and I don't want to turn to soup. I'm a dragonfly nymph. I don't want to climb up into the sun. But I have to trust my Father that he knows what he's doing. And I've seen the pattern of his creation everywhere. He takes things and he loves to give them this moment of resurrection, this moment of fulfillment into something more beautiful and more magnificent. That's still the same thing, still somehow itself, but way more. Just way more, just dialed up to beautiful and phenomenal. And so we see this all over the place, and yet we still fear and we still worry, even though we know we're in the hands of an artist who loves to tell that story. And when he tells us we're seeds for the resurrection, we should just believe him and know that it's gonna be amazing. Like, it's absolutely gonna be phenomenal.
Nate, what can parents look forward to learning and their kids learning by watching the Riot and the Dance?
The goal for everything I do, whether it's fiction, but also for Riot and the Dance, the goal is to make people more interested and therefore more interesting in their own narratives. Like, in your own lives, in your own days, in your own weeks, in your own years, however many God gives you, to be the best character you can be, to be the best version of that character you can be. And so I want to wake up families, especially really comfortable modern families where we all have smartphones and cars and air conditioning and all this other stuff. Like, wake up to the glories of the world around you. When you're distracted by how bad things might get, like how dark things might get in a moment in culture, walk outside, look at the clouds, look at the sun, and tell me that you should be worried. It's like this earth is going Mach 86 around this burning ball of fire in the sky. It's like we're sitting here hurtling around a ball of fire in the sky. Like, it's right there, it's too bright to look at. You'll go blind if you look at it, don't look at it. It's like we're just right there, precariously balanced. If we moved a little bit further away, we all freeze and die. If we move a little bit closer, we all burn up and die. Like, God has us perfectly positioned. And we're going 86 times faster than sound, just around this thing. We're in his hand. Like, step outside and trust him. Like, look at the beauty around you. The beauty of photosynthesis, the beauty of the sky and the water cycle and the clouds and everything else, thunderstorms. Like, wake up to this world and start to interact with God directly about it. When you see an ant cross a sidewalk in front of you, know that God told a story thousands of years long behind that ant. And all of it led to this moment where he's gonna put it in your frame in this particular scene. That squirrel, that bird, this is all directly from his hand and directly part of his artistry. It's like, and start to live in direct interaction with your Father within his art. So in the Riot and the Dance, I want kids to run out the back door and love their backyards and love the world God gave them. And when they see a creature, to know it's a gift. This is a handcrafted work of art and engineering from their Father. Like, another gift from their Father and another gift from their Father who's constantly giving.
Nate, this is awesome. I can't wait for everybody to see The Riot and the Dance, where you're going to see all of this stuff in high definition, in full color, and you got to make sure that all of your kids are watching this. Thanks so much for joining me today. Nate's such a stellar example of a Christian creator that is leading the charge in crafting high-quality, God-glorifying art.